It is this man's destiny to commit ritual suicide. If he does not, the spirit of the dead king will roam the earth and harm his people. He is the king's horseman, Elesin Oba. The Elesin spirit must travel to the afterlife with the king's spirit. Although, he looks like he is already in the afterlife a certain religion promised. This movie is based on true events that took place in Orio, Nigeria, during the height of the World War II in 1946. The king died 30 days ago and today they will bury him as its tradition. The Elesin Oba is celebrated and treated almost like a king for his bravery and courage, especially in the marketplace where all the women would be because he feels at home with them. He is simply a man known for his voracious appetite for the female company. Obviously he belongs to the minority of men that don't fear women. However, he doesn't seem to fear death either, as he is determined to join his ancestors and nothing will stop him. He spots a beautiful maiden he likened to an angel and immediately wants to marry her. He was met with resistance from the leader of the market women named Iya Lodger, about his desire to be with the young woman. She tells him the beautiful maiden is betrothed to her son and he should be focused on his duty, of which Elesin assures her of his steadfastness to his duty. And like a little kid, he tries to guile her into granting his last wishes. While delegating with her fellow market women, her son is shown in a dejected mood. Iya Lodger grants Elesin's wish but warns him again not to let his lust interfere with his duty to the king and people. Elesin's lust, however, is not the only major hurdle. Not far from the village, a British district officer named Pilkings and his wife, Jane, are cluelessly cosplaying in a sacred ceremonial robe that represents death. Musa, a native policeman in the British service, spots them in the costumes. In shock, he refuses to speak to them until they changed. They refuse to remove it and instead tell him to write his report and then leave. In the report, he warns of the village chief's impending ceremonial suicide. Jane is concerned that this will jeopardize the evening's ball event, but Pilking assures her that he will have everyone involved arrested. The scene pans into Iya Lodger meeting with the maiden's parents and telling them of the change of plans of their daughter being the new bride of Elesin, and how it should be seen as an honor to the family. Pilking confirms from his servant, Joseph, of the veracity of the information given to him earlier about the ritual suicide of Elesin by Musa, of which Joseph with enthusiasm confirms the custom.
The king died last month. Tonight is his burial. But before they bury him, the Elesin must die so as to accompany him to heaven.
Pilkings recalls how he had sent Elesin's son to England for medical school 4 years ago when Elesin tried to indoctrinate him into his pagan family tradition. During the wedding preparation, a young man in a blue suit shows up to the scene and is greeted warmly by a member of the dance crew. It is revealed that the man is Olunde, son of Elesin, who just arrived from London. He is made aware of the wedding ceremony of his father, instead of his intended death. Olunde is disturbed, perplexed on hearing this news. Meanwhile, Jane is worried that they would have to miss the ball as per the interference of Elesin's endeavors, but Pilking allays her fears, insinuating that the Prince of England would be in town for the ball and they would win the prize for the best dressed with the sacred regalia. He immediately calls for Joseph to send a message to Musa, to apprehend the defaulters. While Elesin is consummating his marriage, Musa arrives with 2 constables to arrest Elesin Oba but was stopped by the market women. He explains that Elesin's decision to kill himself is a breach of law and he arrived to uphold his duty, but the women leader derides his opinion while stating how preposterous it is for Musa to arrest Elesin for trying to carry out his own duty too. Musa insists to be let to pass by the women who barricaded the entrance. Their leader queries Musa's masculinity for trying to invade on Elesin's privacy, of which Musa disagrees and the women proceeds to make humor of the situation. Musa instructs the constables to move to apprehend Elesin but were met with embarrassment. After the women discarded Musa and his men, Elesin came out of his hut with a blood-stained cloth which indicates that the bride is worthy of his seed. It is now time for the ceremonial ritual. Elesin's dog is first killed as it is custom, then the king's body is brought in. Elesin falls into a trance as he is connected to a higher spirit while his son watches unnoticed. Back at the ball, the English prince arrives. He wastes no time in identifying Pilking and Jane in their attire. Musa arrives and passes a note that entails his failure, and rather than Pilking receiving it, his superior does. After learning everything about the ritual suicide, he puts more pressure on Pilking. Pilking promises to take care of them himself. It clocks midnight as he leaves with his policemen. Olunde scours the ball in search of Pilking and instead finds Jane, of which Jane is happy to see the man who Olunde has become. And he, in a sarcastic manner, tries to chide Jane for the choice of her attire, of which Jane tries to gaslight his belief for the customs of the land. In turn, Olunde points out the hypocrisy of her opinions. He inquires of Pilking. Jane tells him that Pilking was stopping the ritual suicide of his father. Olunde proceeds to tell Jane that it was his reason of showing to the ball to stop Pilking from going ahead with his plan so he does not incur enmity from his people and also to obey the customs of the land. Elesin Oba is apprehended by Pilking, which breaks his connection with the spirit world, thereby disrupting the whole ceremony in the process. At the ball, Olunde could hear the drums but Jane couldn't. When the drumming stops, he deduced with a smirk on his face of the end of the ceremony and the death of his father. Jane questions his nonchalant attitude towards the supposed death of his father, and he explains that since he heard about the demise of the king, he has had to deal with his father's death also. A disturbance outside causes Olunde to listen carefully, and he identifies a voice to be that of his father. He is perplexed by this fact. Elesin, who is being taken to the prison, cites Olunde. Olunde, who is disappointed at Elesin's failure to carry out his duty, couldn't look at him and disowns him. In Elesin's prison cell, Elesin corrects Pilking's remark about the quiet night by warning him that if the ritual is not performed, the world will never be at peace again. Pilking dismisses any claims of a problem and fails to recognize the significance of Elesin's failure. They discuss the future of Olunde. According to Pilking, Olunde will undoubtedly return to England to complete his studies. Elesin is pleased that his son was able to reject him, despite the fact that he appeared to be rejecting his own culture. Iya Lodger visits him with a message from Olunde. Pilking allows her see him, but with one rule: she shouldn't cross the line he draws on the ground, and if she does, his guards should alert him. Iya Lodger draws his attention to her earlier warning. Elesin, not Pilking, is to blame for Elesin's failure to commit suicide, because Elesin admitted that he was the one who was distracted by the young woman. She crosses the line drawn by Pilking and he immediately got alerted. He locks the prison gate while Iya Lodger continues to taunt him. Pilking is made aware of another group of people approaching the prison with an unidentified person in a stretcher. Since they look harmless, he allows them. Elesin pleads with Pilkings to let him go so he could perform his duty, but Pilking declines. Iya Lodger claims to have brought a burden with her, namely the body of Olunde, who committed suicide in place of his father. After seeing his son, Elesin, with the help of the chains that bound his hands, proceeds to hang himself. Pilking and his men unlock the cell door, but were too late to save Elesin. The movie ends as the father and son duo lie side by side. If you like the video, please like and subscribe to help the channel out. Drop a comment, telling us what you would like to see next.